Growing up, I grew up around people that were wealthy and people that didn't have any money. And we were in the middle of the road, but we used to go to all these thrift stores. And we'd go in and you could get like the most amazing. I can remember wearing like a 20s dress to prom, and that's what we did. Other people didn't do that. They're like, what are you doing getting those old rags? And it's just like, oh no, this is where the action is. So probably some of my best fashion moments were revering fashion, getting that from my mom, but then also making it my own in high school. I couldn't afford whatever that dress was that some of my friends were wearing, but I could go in and get something really magnificent from one of the thrift stores. It was from the 50s or the 20s or the 40s at that time, because they were just donating them from these mansions in Palm Beach.
I received several personal calls and emails regarding the new series, Them, created by Little Marvin on Amazon Prime, warning me that the show would be triggering and stressful to watch. So I ignored them and basically binge watched the entire series in less than 2 days and was completely awestruck by the beautiful art direction, the exceptional acting, and of course, the clothes. The scripted series in season 1 follows a Black family's journey from North Carolina to a predominantly white East Compton neighborhood in pursuit of a better life. There were several scenes that were very hard to watch, and many of those same challenges are still faced by the Black community today. It got me thinking, were the aesthetics portrayed through the character wardrobing and scene direction in some way linked to the concept of the American dream? A colorful and hopeful concept that all of us want to be a part of. And like our clothes can sometimes reflect, for some, a yearning for acceptance and assimilation into an elusive promise contaminated by racism and hate in both the physical and spiritual realms. I reached out to costume designer Marianne Cheo to talk with her about her journey in costume design and the creative process that brought the story of Them to life. Enjoy. Welcome to a Fashion Moment podcast. I am obsessed with the show Them and your amazing work, but also, after delving into your long list of credits, I mean, you're brilliant. I mean, you're absolutely brilliant.
Oh,
so
sweet.
Thank you so much for joining us. So I always love to just start at the beginning in terms of like where you're from, where were you born, and sort of like when did you discover the power of clothes and the ability for clothes to tell a story?
Well, I was born in upstate New York, and my father's an Italian immigrant, and my grandmother was was the seamstress in the town in Seneca Falls, it's the home of women's rights, but there was all these Italian women that were, she was an arranged marriage, and wow. it was just like a really interesting place, and so she did all. I can remember being in her sewing room, and it was the treadle machine, and she'd be making the wedding dresses, every event that you can imagine in this town, and she'd have these beautiful laces, and she'd do a lot of make her own lace and whatnot. So she was kind of a genius. So the magic came out of her fingers. And I think at a young age, I realized that, this is very powerful and beautiful and amazing and a gift. And we moved down to South Florida eventually. And so, I was raised in the South and in a town, it's just outside of Palm Beach. So, one of the things that I might be jumping ahead a little bit that interested me about this story in particular is that, I grew up in an area where it was pretty segregated, and, Palm Beach was built by ex-slaves and by Henry Flagler, who brought the railroad down to South Florida. And so Palm Beach was built in these beautiful homes. And then, he sent them over to West Palm Beach, which when I was growing up, like anything out west, not necessarily West Palm Beach by then, but anything out west was called the Sticks. And where the name actually came from is that Henry Flagler sent them for a circus, for them to all go to the circus to pay them, to celebrate that they'd finished building Palm Beach, which they were living on the island as well. And he ended up burning down all their homes in Palm Beach. And so then they all moved out to West Jupiter. So this is sort of the lore that I grew up in. And, the surprising, I was young, I was born after the civil rights movement and everything, but, we grew up in an area where people were racist, and, I can remember, I ran track and, I had one of my best friends was this guy, Kenny, and he just happened to be Black. And he came over to my house for dinner, and I was all excited for my parents to meet him because I spent every day with him. And my dad was concerned that I was dating him or something like that. That's when I realized my dad was racist, even though people were racist against him because he was Italian. So, this is one of those things. I knew the script was out there, and I told my agent, I was I just get me an interview for this. I want to do this, tell this story so bad. I can't even explain why, but it was one of those moments that I, interviewed for it. And I know they probably wanted a Black costume designer, and there's some amazing ones. Thank God they were all busy because I think that's the only way. And I got my moment, and I just, wanted to, thank God little Marvin hired me because I'm so in love with this project too. And it's very hard. It's hard to watch. There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
But,
I was rewatching a few episodes this morning just to prep, and I had to take a moment, and I was just like, oh, I forgot how powerful that scene was, It's
intense. And we started shooting it before, COVID, and then we went down during COVID. Then we had all that time, we came back to it. So there's, when I went to watch it, I knew it was hard when we were doing it. And, and, we had just amazing cast and crew, and it just, everybody supported each other. It's just hard for everybody, it's hard for Alison Cole to say some of her lines, so.
Absolutely. But you can feel the passion and your care for the story through the clothes. I mean, it was brilliant. I mean, the colors and, we're going to delve into that. I'm let me not get carried away because I can talk I've been talking with my friends about it, just everyone. But, just to wind it back just a little bit before we delve into that. So first of all, what is costume design? Do people think some people think it's oh, you're actually making the costumes, and then some people are oh, you're buying the clothes. How does that work? Okay. So, going back to one of the first things you'd asked me about is how does you get the inspiration and where does this all come from? And what is costume design? And I do have a long list of credits. Right. As an assistant designer, I've worked on, Ali, we were, everywhere. Yes.
But, it's depending on the job, something like this, especially, you go into, you buy some things, not really, but this was a big design project. So we went into, we get samples from different costume houses, and, we buy some vintage things online, maybe, we swatch fabrics. In the case of this show, which has gotten a lot easier since we tried to do it even on Ali a million years ago, which was very complicated. We printed a lot of the fabrics. So we really wanted.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So and it was a lot easier to do now. Years ago, it was very difficult to figure out and do, and you had to have timing. There's only some places did it, but we really, we just really wanted to control our scenes. So this is something that's, evolved, and, they can print these fabrics much easier now. So we'd find maybe even a vintage print that we liked, and, in a dress that was a size 0 and ripping. And so we're this could be amazing. And, let's do this, but let's change the color, and let's do, and, we'd have this woman, Caroline, in the art department, who's amazing, who didn't have enough on our plate, that we'd have to go run up to her and say, can you make this print bigger, smaller? Can you put this in there? Even some of the dresses had lines from the show written into the dress. Wow. So, because it was kind of this, is it real? Is it a dream? They have this, it kind of goes in and out of, it's a kind of a surreal show in a way, because you have all these subliminal things happening. And so we just kept, my assistant designer, Felicia Jarvis, who's brilliant, and we're just go further and further and further all the time. And let's do this. Let's see if we can do this. And a lot of times we're racing against the clock, but, for whatever reason, we're blessed on this show. It just, everything always seemed to like come in at the last minute and work out. And we're very much in love with it because there was a lot of thought that went into it. And all shows are not like this, this happened to work for this one. And, we had just a genius production designer and hair and makeup,
the production design. Oh my God.
And he did amazing at the wallpaper. So it became like this one car Y moment. We wanted to go in and out of the wallpaper. And, so that's what, it started out that way. And we just kept getting crazier and crazier.
Do you ever sleep? I'm just wondering, do you?
Not when I'm working. Not when I'm working, actually. No. So we are 24/7 because
my goodness,
we're into it.
So, just for people who don't know about Them, which is on Amazon Prime right now, you can watch it if you have Prime for free. What is Them about? If you could just give us a brief synopsis of what the show's about.
Okay. So it was based on a true story, believe it or not, a portion of it. And so, there was a great migration from the South after World War II for African-American families to come to California, to the West. They were getting better jobs. The schools were, they were not segregated. They're, they integrated.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was a push. And then the dark side of that was that there was something called redlining. So real estate practices where they really took advantage of these families. And, it was, they basically were stealing their homes and it was really bad. And even the 10 freeway that runs in LA, one of the reasons it's built where it was built, it used to be called Sugar Hill, which is where all the elite African-Americans lived. And so just to kind of diminish that, they decided to put freeway through it. So welcome to California.
Wow. Well, I was born in Compton.
Oh, wow.
And we left, because, people started shooting and it wasn't safe anymore. But when I saw the show, I was like, wait, Compton was white? I had no idea. I had no idea.
George Bush's family lived there in the 50s. That's how white it was. Yeah. I mean, it was, it's a true story. It just blows me away. That alone was can we just do that show? And so there was a family that moved there. And then probably because of, if you were born in LA, like Leimert Park, they used to literally what you see in that show is real, exciting writing on the lawn. Those are all real. That's what's based in reality. Those things happen.
Wow.
They would run these families out. They would throw rocks at them. They would kill their dogs. They would do it. It was really intense. And, when I was researching it, I went down to UCLA and there's an African American sort of museum there. And they have archives.
Oh, it's fabulous. I love it.
Great. And the woman that runs it is amazing. And so I just started going through all the old magazines and newspapers like Sepia and Ebony and finding all these articles and pictures. And that blew me away too, that this is so based in reality. And so, and I know it's hard to watch, but it was really harder to live through it because people did, so absolutely. And I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding the show about, it's gone too far and everything, but it depends.
It was rough, you guys. It was rough.
People are talking about it,
Yes.
And, so I don't know, it's just, and I just think it was an amazing story. So it's, so it's based in reality. So that's the family came here and they each have sort of a doppelganger that's their psyche that is, they're torturing themselves too. So you've got the tap dance man, you've got everyone sort of has their subconscious, entity that also haunts them. So
is that what that was?
Yes.
Because I was I need to read through some of the think pieces and you should figure this out.
Look up Little Marvin and find some of his interviews. He's literally he's just so smart. He's a genius. And when I first met him, I was Little Marvin, what is this? And he's a 6'5" black man who has so much charisma. I was just and he is so smart. And if you read some of his pieces or listen to him talk, it really kind of brings it all together because, it's I read the script, but again, it was through his direction that all of us would just, feed on each other and, take it further. It's like, what is this person? And you start to talk about it, and you're just like, scribbling things down. And then you go off into your mind and you start piecing what he's telling you together. And, we show him drawings and be like, not that, but yes, that, maybe it's that, and then he kind of knew. He'd be like, no, that's it.
I love it. I love it. One of the crazy things as I was watching it, and I was like, maybe I'm like pulling like from like somewhere crazy, but just the beautiful colors, the wardrobing, the picture perfect, neighborhood block. It just felt like, I was like, is this supposed to sort of symbolize like the surface beauty of the American dream and what it means?
Yes.
But really under the surface, it's
you got it.
Pretty dark and ugly.
Yes.
Because I'm like, what I'm watching is so beautiful. Like the way that people look, like, including both the Black and white families, everyone had sort of this sense of dignity, almost as if they were all striving towards one thing, but one group was being held back. But you could tell through the clothes that this is what the American dream is supposed to symbolize.
So that's what we really were trying to do. I'm glad you picked up on that, because they both want the same thing. That's what's so funny. It's like, and Alison Pill had done an interview and she talked about her smile.
Ooh, she's amazing.
She's beyond. Like,
oh my God.
I mean, beyond.
Emmy, hello.
I know. And she talked about the smile. And if you see, and then, I had to rewatch it again, because she talks about what she tries to get with her smile. Everything is, comes out through this smile. And it's like, and it's true. The neighborhood's like the pastel, beautiful colors, the wardrobe for a lot of the white families are, there's some, when we first come in, especially, but are pastels, and I kind of try to integrate them for each one of their houses, so they also match their houses too. So it's like it's a thing. And then the dignity, as you just said, like and Little Marvin had said, they're like the Obamas, they're smart people. It's like, and it was really funny when he said that. I was like, really? And it took me a while, but so we dress them. We wanted them to be really dignified when we first see them, and very, put together. But they're in these earth tones. So they came from the South. So if you look at them, they're all in these colors that are very like browns and greens and of the earth, and not necessarily. She's a pastel yellow jacket, but is it really? It's a little muddy. And so, you look at that again when you go into the wallpaper too, in the house too, how they sort of they kind of go into their house and they kind of identify in that house. So, that's what we really tried to set up in the very beginning, is that there's this, they're very earthy, and then there's these sort of pastel neighborhood that they're coming into, and again we use it for her. Like, there's the scene where she's with Gracie and she's coming through that neighborhood. She's in the brown dress with all the trees on it.
Yeah.
So when we get to that point, so the trees, it's like, it hurts to, I hate to say it, but like, they like the lynchings and whatnot, like trees, like it can be, it sort of is this, it was symbolic in its own right. And then each tree has the colors of the neighborhood on it. And I wanted her to be kind of brown, so that it's a brown dress. So she looks really brown in that scene, It was about, again, seeing her like walking down. It's just so glad that they did it. I was like, we got to have her walk down, through all those houses and stuff, This is like a real moment. And then, and so when she has that confrontation, hold my purse, baby. And she goes and,
oh my goodness.
Which I just love that scene so much.
I felt that. Yeah. Oh my God. That was like such a great moment. I was like, yes.
Podcasts are awesome. And I know you love them too, or you wouldn't be here right now. But have you ever thought about starting your own? Don't worry, you don't have to be a techie, but you do need a bit of guidance so you don't make costly mistakes. My name is Sunny, and I've been podcasting for a long time. I've launched more than 15 profitable podcasts, and I'm the founder of the Independent Podcast Network. My online course, How to Launch Your Profitable Podcast in 30 Days, gives you the keys to the 5 Ps of podcasting, which is everything you need to launch and grow a successful podcast. You get unlimited access to more than 35 videos and dozens of handouts. And when you purchase my course, you're also supporting this awesome podcast because they're getting 50% of the money when you use their special link. How cool is that? Let me help you get started with your podcast. Go to podcastareawesome.com/fashion. That's podcastareawesome.com Etsy.com/fashion.
It's so interesting you mentioned the smile, because that was actually something I discussed with my friends. I'm like, we've all seen that smile.
Yes.
Like it's wild. I'm so glad she spent time on that, because absolutely correct. And what you mentioned, the transition from the South to East Compton, I did notice that transition, even with the hair. Like the hair was more natural, curl, the curls were there. And then all of a sudden, her hair was straight. So I was wondering if that transition, I also have to just, commend you, because a lot of the Southern scenes, I noticed the lighting was different.
Yeah.
Like they were either by candlelight or, extreme, a certain bright light from the outside, and then all the neutral tones, like everything had sort of a feel to it. And also the different patterns. I noticed the patterns changed and all of that. Was it sort of like, a representation of these characters assimilating or attempting to assimilate into? Well,
the stuff from the South, go back to what you said about the lighting. Like when I first talked to, one of my gut things when I talked to Little Marvin in my first meeting, like I always felt, maybe because I was from the South, and two, that it's hot and kind of blinding all the time. It's like, you're always, and so like, even though it was scripted, that white dress for her, it just, it just felt like it should almost be blinding. And they did it as shot anamorphically, so you have all those flares coming in. So it's I feel like we kind of got that. Like I felt that. It felt like it was just like, it's like you go out in the sun, it's like, who's talking to me? And it's, and there's this woman there, and it's just, poor little Chester in there, and it had, and then we have the funeral scenes, and it's very black and white, but it was, we did try to differentiate. We did more, clothes were, from like, with the girls and stuff, it's more sort of from like the 40s,
the girls.
Yeah. And I love them.
Those girls. Oh my God. Like I'm a fan.
They're genius.
I'm a fan.
They're amazing. They're like, watch their careers, because they are going to be huge, and they're amazing and professionals. Like, sometimes working with, young kids, it's difficult, but they were spot on. They like the material, the parents are great. It's like, they're just great kids. And they really became a family. It's like the Emerys are like, they're, they are real. Like they all like, those actors all like really got close, and, they were, they went deep, very deep to make this happen. And I really feel like you feel it and you see it on the screen. It's just, blows me away to watch them act, because they're, not missing a beat.
There was a scene when Lucky goes to visit Hazel, and she's in Watts in the Black community. And I noticed that there were some like crocheted like tops. Like, was there sort of a different direction for that?
God, you're amazing.
You pull info?
You are a fashion diva. You caught it all.
I'm obsessed. I was like, let me see what's going on here. I loved it.
There is. So that transition was, and we have that crazy dress that she's in, the red. It's like, there's like little eyeballs. A lot of her stuff have either faces on it or things that look like eyeballs. So that's that red and blue dress is basically like, if you look at it, sort of like eyes that are turned sideways. So that was our thought that, again, she's, and it's kind of crazy. And it was like, are we really doing this? There's that moment, like, are we really doing this? And but we wanted it to be like, there's the pastels and whatnot in Compton. And when you get down to Watts, we wanted it to be like full of life. And like everybody, we wanted to do a lot of prints and, and just, again, we pulled some stuff that's a little bit earlier from the period and much more fun, in my opinion. So, so we went into that room. We wanted it to be like it's a party, and
I loved it.
There's like all the, all the shirts are kind of full life, and the crochet, all of that was just, and the curtains are, got patterns on them. And, that was like, we just wanted that world to be full of like flavor and life and party and just, and crazy prints. And, I don't know if you noticed that so there's also, because of the prints, we found this dress that had, this, and it's a print from the 40s that was an African baby face. There's a little baby's face with wings. Did you see that on Hazel? When she comes to the house, I don't know if you have to rewatch this.
Yes, when she comes to the house,
she's at her place and she's there. She's in one blouse, and then when she comes to the house. It's the same shape cut blouse, but we switched the pattern. And it's supposed to be like Chester it's a blackface angel face.
Oh,
and so, but it was a print that we took from the 40s and we reprinted it. And again, it's like, are we doing this? And it's like, but it's in her head and she's always thinking of Chester. Yeah. So we sort of did it. And, thank God again, like Little Marvin's just like, go for it, do it. Like, he's like, no, do it. It's not too far.
It was I'm going to have to revisit that.
Yeah. It's like that. That's a thing to notice. And so, there's again, another one like that is on little Gracie's dress again with the brown. She has that pale blue dress, and there's lavender, which is we embroidered on the collar, which is what she had put on Chester to keep him quiet. So that's on her. Because there's things like we've sort of tried to incorporate things, and at the end she's got the little lamb, like Silence of the Lambs, like to slaughter. She's got the little lamb embroidered pinafore on her.
Oh my God,
because you're a fashion geek, you have to go back and look at some.
I'm obsessed. I am so ready. OMG. So we got to talk about the guys. Okay. Ashley did his thing, and I was like, yes, Ashley. He looked phenomenal. What was your thought process about the men? I kind of felt like the women were running the show, ideally, with the exception of the redlining. But sort of what message were you trying to send through the male characters on the show? So
for Ashley, he's trying to be a confident African-American man coming into a job as an engineer, but one of my favorite scenes is with him and Burks in his office. And Burks called him in after the dog died. And, PJ's amazing.
That was traumatizing. I mean,
it's intense.
So many of us have been through moments like that. Oh. It's like, it is, I'm like every Black person in a corporate office or predominantly white office has dealt with that particular scene, and even the screaming in the bathroom. Like it's so heartbreaking. Like, I just can't even. And that's like, probably one of my favorite scenes in the show is that, because, Ashley just was magnificent in it. And so his clothes, like he comes, he's in a sport coat, he's very dignified. And then if you notice, pretty much in that office, he wears that brown suit. That's sort of his armor. He's got two suits, but that brown suit is, again, and I always tried to play it up, like, when he's in the first time he sees the tap dance man at the party in the hangar, like he's standing there, he's in that dark color. Everybody else was in lighter colors. So, I tried to have him stand out in that scene, and we tried to place, I think there might be one, there's the one guy has a dark suit on who's has a lot, he's a principal, but really, like, I tried to make sure he was surrounded by lighter people. So he just sort of stood out in that moment. So, same thing when he first goes into that scene where he walks up, he comes to that office. But and so for him, like his tie bar is a teardrop. If you look at it, it's a tear. Oh, wow. And then his ties sort of progress a little bit too. They've got like, there's like a change, like as he gets enraged, like it's a red tie there at the scene where I think he sees the tap dance man. So we did subtle things, and men's clothes are like can be a little less interesting for that period, but we did try to, again, tell a story through his wardrobe as well. Yeah. And then, when he definitely starts to transition, you can barely see it, but he's got a blue shirt on, but he's in that white shirt and that brown suit through the entire time. We didn't have the scripts, we had a whole transition in his clothing that was to happen, but because we didn't, the scripts came out later, and then it ended up being, he didn't change, like people didn't change. So we had more to go with him. But weren't able really to get there. But then there's the happy moment when he goes to buy the TV with the girls, and he's this really cool sport coat. Again, it's the brown, but he's got this beautiful blue shirt on, and it's like a happy moment for all of them. And little Gracie's shirt has little white people on it, but you can't really see it. It didn't translate as well on the screen. But there's like things that we always did that was always just sort of like, tried to have a little something there that spoke to the time period and a little bit of, racism too at times when we found it. But, Ashley's just, I can't even tell you. He came into that first fitting. He's got a British accent too, which this is kind of, I know. I was like, wait, he's British.
He was doing an interview midway through the show, and he had that American, he came into the fitting, had the English accent and a full beard, but I called him the bear, And then it was funny because he was doing we were shooting the show for months, and he was doing this interview on set, and he started speaking English in this English accent. I go, how did you just get hotter?
Right. No, seriously.
He brings out that English accent, but he just, he killed it. I mean, he was just amazing. Yeah.
The whole cast, everybody just, I mean, I was like, Emmys all around, like just phenomenal. So from your perspective, I know the show is very difficult, but from a wardrobe perspective, what was one of the most challenging, either characters or moments that your team had to overcome while shooting?
Well, I think certainly, again, everybody really took care of each other, but I think the tap dance man came along, like he wasn't we didn't know what it was going to be. Like we knew Henry was going to have his character, and I think little Marvin was working on it, and he, it took us a while. He talked to us about Jim Crow South and minstrels, and we just didn't know if we were going to go there. So we did, a lot of different concepts for it. And in the end, it was I think we have to do it. It has to be that, this is who that character is. And little Marvin, it was dealing with Howard, who's amazing, the hair makeup fellow, who are the makeup special effects artist, who's, got Emmys and Oscars and the whole bit. He's one of the best in the business. So, so we did some, conceptual ideas on what it was going to be. And I think little Marvin in the beginning was I don't know if I want to go all the way there and everything, but in the end, and then we got Jeremiah, this actor who was just beyond, he really, brought the character to life and brought, the Henry's subconscious and, what everybody, tells, was what was especially for that period, which is still going on, trying to diminish, the African-American person, so, yeah. And it was a really, again, it's one of those moments, are we going to go too far here? Or what is this? But then Jeremiah came in, and we put him into costume, and we did some tests, and it just, that to me was one of those moments. It was hard, and it's hard to say I'm so satisfied by it because it's so dark, but I feel like it was true. I feel like it was, we did it. And I do feel like it was important to have that character there. And I think it was important to go to that moment. And that was really, that was one of those moments. It was are we doing this, and we did it. And Jeremiah, I can't imagine it being anybody else than him, because he was incredible. I don't even know how to say it. He just brought that character, if you could act any better than that, I don't even know. It's just, he was brilliant. So that to me was it. It was I think the Tap Dance Man was really intense, and but
I felt like overall the show was more of psychological, more of a psychological thriller. There were moments of violence that were either implied or that happened. I'm a mother of two, so that scene, cat in the bag, I was like, Lord,
I did ask.
I had to take a breath.
Have to do that scene. I did.
I had to take a break.
That was tough.
And cry my eyes out. And I definitely hugged my kids a little tighter that day. But just to have the privilege to be a mother and to raise children.
I'm
and
a mother
as I was
too.
watching the family, as I saw the family together, it's wow, where we are now, obviously there's a long way to go, but just the fact that I can raise my kids with, without, certain terrors, at bay is I'm whew, they went through so much so we can be here. So let's keep pushing it forward. But, I definitely saw that in the show. And I thought some of the more psychological things were a bit more disturbing, because you're hey, that's still happening. The redlining and some of the
it's all still happening.
Psychological games.
And that's what's so true. And that's why there is a moment. It's that day we were shooting that scene in particular. We had a trauma person on set. We had
wonderful.
Yeah, no, it was very protected in a lot of ways. And I would have preferred not to be there, but being a mother and I was a victim of sexual assault at one point in my life too. So it was just
me too.
So I was kind of it was hard,
it was
but there's a lot of emotions, and but I went there because of Deb. I wanted to be there for Deborah, And it was hard. And, and I even told little Marvin, I was like, this is really hard for a lot of people. Like, I know this is out of your mind and everything, and he, he goes, and he said, yeah, I know, like, we're joking around about something. I was like, this is really, really hardcore. Like, let's get this done as quickly as possible. Don't make Deborah go through it 10,000 times, and let's just, get it. But they did, like I said, they were very, that's the first time there's ever been, I've been on a set and I've shot a lot of crazy stuff where there was a trauma, like there was somebody there that you could talk to if you needed to.
Wow.
And I thought that was amazing. And I don't know if it was, the director's idea or the producers, whoever it was, but, and they had a woman director for that too, who was amazing. And, that was very hard, very hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Deborah is, I mean, what was it like working with Deborah? She's a Howard alum. Yay, yes. Go Bison. Go Bison. So, yeah, my sister was like, oh, yeah, she's in my class. I'm like, oh, whatever, stop bragging. But what was it like working with her and just, first of all, she's gorgeous.
She's insanely gorgeous. Her skin glow. She came into. I've never had somebody be so gorgeous coming into fittings. I usually will be like, just, because I do photograph everything and make them pose, and there's like a whole thing. Yeah. And I was like, just, usually tell the women, just, make sure you put a little bit of makeup on and brush your hair. Do something. And she always came in. She just is like, gorgeous. And I was like, and you always hate to get like, you'd be taking a picture and maybe there's a picture of you in the mirror. They're like, I don't want to be, don't ever let me be near her, like be photographed next to her ever. So she's amazing. I mean, she's an amazing person. She's a dream to dress. Like, I can't even tell you, like, again.
Do you have a favorite outfit that you put her in where you're just like, yes?
I love the green dress. The green dress.
Oh yeah.
I love that green dress. And that was when, and again, we fit her in, these things, it's a process. You try different shapes on people. You get to know their bodies, and, you do like several fittings before you even start making anything. And that green dress is just, to me, it's just amazing. It's her, it's buttoned up. It's just like, it's all of this, like, she wouldn't like, I don't know. It was day 2, going out, and then she's a little more elevated, and I just loved that on her so much.
I love it. I love it.
She just, in the white dress, she had, first time I talked to her, she said, there's this actress, French actress, Mariposa Dawn, who did The Black Othello, was her first film in the 50s. And she's like, that's like, I had my inspiration that I was, dealing with. And then she had thrown that name out to me. And that sort of, I looked her up, and she was an American, and she couldn't get roles in the US because of racism. So she moved to France, and then, she worked sort of as a nanny, and she sang and danced in nightclubs and whatnot. And then she, her first role was Black Othello. And that's where I took, that was the South Carolina version of my character. And that, if you look her up, she's amazing. Like, even the hair is the same. And like, the white dress, like the sort of the inspiration for the white dress and the whole bit. And so, she just, again, Deborah did her homework, she found, and again, and everybody was collaborative and, about what their character was. So like, she brought stuff to the table. We met her at the table with some things, and we built her character, on that. They didn't have a lot of money. Like, some of their clothes are like, it's, late 40s for her stuff, a lot of them, so it's just, and again, it just, I'm so happy with everything turned out for her, because it just was amazing and fun to do, because she was an inspiration. And
so beautiful.
I just I wish the best for this cast, because they really are truly gifted. And same with Ashley. Ashley, back to him. It's like getting men to wear clothes in the 50s. They all want to pull their pants down. They have to wear it up at their belly button. And he came to the first fitting. He's like, is it that? And he had like, maybe it's this. I'm like, no. Ashley, no. Down. No, this is what you're going to do. And we talked to him about how to wear the clothes. Don't let the clothes wear him,
Yes.
And, I gave him a book that talked about the redlining in the U.S. So he went home and he read that, and he really wore his clothes properly. He was a man of that time. I don't know if he watched movies or, where else he wore it. But when I watched the show, so I'm not there all the time on the the set, but I'm always, calling my girls, make sure the pants are up, make sure this, tell Ashley, whatever. But, I looked at it and he was flawless, how he did his jacket and hands in his pocket, hats on and off, and just like all his subtleties. And I have to give it up to him. He really, because it's hard to get guys to wear those clothes a lot of times. They're like, I don't want to wear the tie. I want to unbutton the top tie. Can we?
Oh my
I'm like,
goodness.
nope, you can't. Nope, you can't. He wouldn't do it in the 50s. Nope, he wasn't going to do that. He's going to do this. And Ashley I was like, okay.
I love it. So I expect to see awards for this everywhere. I mean, phenomenal. What are you working on now, if you're allowed to tell us?
I'm working on motherhood right now.
I know.
It's just kids. My daughter was being, she had to be home, and she's an elite athlete too. She's on the national team, senior national team for rhythmic gymnastics. So there's a lot of flying going on right now. So I wanted to be here to prep for her. And I was, I'm waiting for something. This is what I do. I'm waiting for something really good. I've got a couple of things that I want.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I did with this one. So probably in the next month, I'll be, working on something. So I'm prepping to interview for a couple of jobs that I really want. And then she goes, exactly. She goes back. She just started back to school, a couple of days a week. So now I can
congratulations.
Be released. But I just really, it's, as a mom, I'm sure you understand. It's like, it's a difficult time for these kids. And you just want my daughter, she just turned 16. So I want to make sure that she's supported in what she needs. And, my husband works. So, it's just like maybe the random commercial here or there. And it's just about being there for her. We had to fly to Grand Rapids this weekend to compete. And
fun!
More competitions next month, but now I'm starting to prep something. I can do it and still do my few trips. And then she's got qualifier. So, it's like 2 spots, there's like, she's got to compete for. So it's intense. You just want to, be there and make sure it's all good. And then,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I have to ask, I know you're so busy dressing everyone else all the time, but do you have a favorite fashion moment? It could be something that you either experienced or witnessed. And it can be dressing someone else. That's fine.
It can be dressing
in your case, it's fine.
Oh, I'm trying to think. What's my favorite?
That was just or just one of your favorites. We'll say one of your favorites because there can be many.
There's a lot for sure.
Or it could be one of your earliest memories. One of your earliest fashion moment memories. That could work too.
I have to think. I've lived through so much. I was born in the 60s, so it's kind of funny. I used to love dressing up in my mom was very glamorous. And I can remember putting on some of her old dresses from the 50s when I was quite little. And she was always, don't leave the house without lipstick. It's always the red lips and, and the whole bit. She was just, one of the most amazing women I've ever known. And so, and I think that sort of set the tone for me. And it's like, you don't have to have a lot of money. You just got to have some style, is what she used to tell me. And so, and we, growing up, I grew up around people that were wealthy and people that didn't have any money. And we were in the middle of the road, but, I can remember we used to go to all these, because we had Jupiter Island and Palm Beach there. It's all these thrift stores. And we'd go in and you could get like the most amazing. I can remember wearing like a 20s dress to prom, and that's what we did. Other people didn't do that. They didn't they're like, what are you doing getting those old rags? And it's just like, oh no, this is where the action is. Yeah, exactly. So those probably some of my best fashion moments were like revering fashion, from getting that from my mom, but then also making it my own in high school.
Yeah.
And just doing, I couldn't afford whatever that dress was some of my friends were wearing, but I could go in and get something really magnificent from one of the thrift stores. It was from the 50s or the 20s or the 40s at that time, because nobody would buy, they were just donating them from these mansions in Palm Beach.
Exactly. And, that's good stuff.
And here's actually one of my favorite fashion moments. Actually, I had a boyfriend who came from a very wealthy family. This is when I was just out of high school, and he was like lived in Palm Beach and everything. A little bit older than me, older man. And I was like, oh, we were going to go somewhere. I was like, oh, let's go into this. I love this thrift store right here. Let's go in here. And he's like, what are we doing? What? He's all, I'll buy you a dress. I'm like, no. This is going to be great. He'd never been into this thrift store that was actually in Palm Beach. And I go, here you go. He's tall. And I go, here's the suit. I go, put this on, like this, like beautiful linen suit. And he put it on. He goes, I can't believe this fits me perfectly. It was crazy. It was beautiful. And it was made for his grandfather. And it had his thing on the inside of it. His name was Henry Atterbury Perry. Hat Perry was the man's name.
Wow.
And that was like one of my favorite, I think, fashion mysteries. And he just like could not believe it. I was like, he was like, well, I'll be buying this then.
oh, you are blessed. But it was like you have
the magic. And he just is like, he learned a very valuable lesson, I think, that day, and it's just like beautiful tailored clothing and, it's just always fun. Fashion is fun. I love it. I'm teaching my daughter now. She's just like, just got to have style. She's like, everybody's wearing it. It's like, they're all good in this here. I go, I was like, we're going into my closet. We're going here. We're saying, I've saved everything. It's like you're putting on this, LeMay, blazer, Marc Jacobs from like 10 years ago, and these insane pants that are like, and this is an outfit. She's like, wow, this is good.
Okay. Right. Hello. I'm like, do you know your mom?
Yeah, and you'll never be this pretty again. It's like your body is like, you can wear anything, like just throw it on and it looks glamorous and amazing. It's just like, so I was like, you got to just have the style, just have a little, because all you need in life. You don't have to have the most expensive handbag. You don't have to have anything. Just you got to have a little style that's your own, and can go anywhere. That's it.
You are amazing. Thank you so much for doing the interview. I love your work.
You're so much fun. I'm going to go listen to all your podcasts now. You were good. You really picked up on so much stuff. It's amazing. I love it.
I just love fashion and clothes. Like I literally, like I almost, as the Black folk would say, it feels like the Holy Ghost. Like when I see certain, I'm like, oh my God. Like I feel the inspiration. I feel the authenticity. I feel the creativity that the person intended. Like when I feel that energy, I'm just like,
thank you. Thank you for having that gift.
The runway doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm just like, yes. So thank you.
Oh, and one last thing before, because I know you're going to like it. So Betty, there's the birds always in our thing, which is some of it was an homage to the bird to Hitchcock. I don't know if you know that. Like you'll see like Brooke's character, the realtor, she's got like a bird pin on, and so there's birds, and then she's sort of like the character, Alison Pill's character, Betty's sort of a bird in a cage, and then her with her dad, they both have the pair of birds, and she's got the bird at her house, and he's got the bird porcelain pair at his house. So in the end, and I could have put her in blue the entire time, but one of the first directors was like, I want to try a different color. I'm like, no, just put her in blue. She's blue.
I know.
But at the end, she has this pink dress that we made, which is out of vintage pink silk. We had to make two of them. We had just enough for two dresses, but we called it the bird cage dress because it's got the cage, and so she's like a bird in a cage. And then she has the bird, like she's sort of set free, even though she gets killed in. They had two different endings for it.
Yeah.
But she's got so we never knew. I didn't know what was going to happen to the end. It was if she got away or not. And so she has the bird pin she has on there too. So.
Oh my God. I'm going to need them to release the alternative ending. Like Get Out.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And good luck to your daughter and her team.
Yes. Thank you so much.
They can do it.
Yes.
And you're great. So we look forward to seeing what you do next. And obviously you're always welcome to come back.
Oh, thank you so much. It's going to be whatever it is. It's going to be good. I hope. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for joining me for this week of A Fashion Moment. If you like what you hear, we'd love for you to join our community of listeners and spread the word about the show. We also want to hear from you. Share your favorite fashion moments and dream guests with us by sending an audio clip or email to afashionmomentpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can tag us on Instagram at A Fashion Moment, and you could be featured on next week's episode. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review and let us know what you think. Until then, see you next time for another fashion moment. Podcast production by Rebecca Rashid and John Taylor Williams. Digital media production by Megan Porras.
This recording carries a Creative Commons 4.0 international license. Thanks to Patrick Patricios for their song, Hot Coffee.